Today's objective is I can describe how HTML is used to display information on a web page. Don't take that objective too literally. You don't need to know the ones and zeros and how they go to the server and then how they go from the server to a person's monitor. But just at a higher level of abstraction, I want you to describe how HTML is working. Our agenda is some short writing lessons with hardware chunked into each lesson for the next few days. I don't want to work too much at the low hardware level, but we still need to reference it in order to better understand how the HTML is working. We'll have a good discussion, so this video will be pretty short in terms of the lecture portion of the lesson, and then I'll do a video on the reading, the think aloud for the lesson, and of course I'll have a solo learn one about the first module where you get to practice using HTML quite a bit. What we've not started, not doing a lot of coding yet. It's going to come. Be patient. In progress, we have HTML terms and knowledge. And what we finished yesterday is evaluating the credibility of websites. So what is HTML? It stands for Hypertext Markup Language. You hear the word language, and you might wonder, is this a computer language? Is this coding? All right, so there's going to be two schools of thought on that, and we'll kind of dig into that in just a minute. But for now, this is what a basic HTML looks like, okay? So you have an opening tag and a closing tag. Inside of those tags, you have content. So this is going to be words that are displayed on a page. Now, another thing you can have in HTML is a structure. So P stands for paragraph, and so that's going to look like what you have here in the center of the slideshow. But you can also add words over here on the side, and using HTML specifically say keep it on this side with this alignment. That's kind of how HTML works. It's really just for the content and the structure of a web page. So what is in between the tags? What do you call that? And what do you call this entire line? So we'll jump right into the video this day in class, okay? It's going to talk about early computing. Here's some video notes I came away with. I learned that they are just simple machines. Computers are simple machines with very complex actions. The origins of computing can date all the way back to ancient Mesopotamia with the abacus. Charles Babbage is a big name in the beginning of computing. In 1613, this word computer was used as a job title for a person who is doing math, not, the hardware we've come to know it today. The difference engine was one of the world's first computers, and this was used for polynomials. Now don't freak out, we're not going to do a lot of math in this class. Polynomial is just an equation with more than one variable. So some of the motivation behind creating computers is to do more complex math. Ada Lovelace, technically speaking, the world's first programmer. Herman Hollerith invented a machine for the sake of a census. So here's some more motivation behind the world's first computers and the need for it for government census taking. Punch cards were originally used, and what this is saying is basically if a pin physically passed through the card, that's going to tell the computer it's a 1. Okay, so computers work with ones and zeros. We'll learn more about that later. And I want you to think of what you learned from the video about Ada Lovelace and Herman Hollerith to answer the following question. Is HTML a programming language? From what you know so far, what are you thinking? Yes, no, and why? So I had to Google this because I was kind of stuck too. And many times when you Google a programming related question, you're going to find yourself on a website called Stack Overflow. It's a great website where questions are submitted and answers are upvoted or downvoted based on the community's thinking. And this is a community of experts. You can't just jump on the website and start upvoting and downvoting things until you build your own reputation as someone who knows what they're talking about. And 9 times out of 10, the answers coming out of Stack Overflow are terrific. So let me read one excerpt I found. This person says, no, HTML is not a programming language. The M stands for markup. Generally, a programming language allows you to describe some sort of process of doing something, whereas HTML is a way of adding context and structure to a text. Then he goes on to say, if you're looking to add more alphabet soup to your CV, which stands for curriculum vitae, this is a list you can put on your resume of skills and things you know. He's saying don't put HTML as a programming language that you know. Now, another person came back and said, any instruction that tells a computer to do something is a programming language. So even after all these years, I still stand by my answer. HTML is a programming language. Something that isn't a programming language would be XML. Okay, you can do some research on your own to learn more about XML, but this guy, I personally am leaning towards. I like the idea that when I say code, you're giving the computer a code to work with and to do something with. So since HTML uses these tags, it's a special character that you're typing for the computer to take in and then send information to a server, and then people can access that server to read whatever content you're putting on a web page. Someone else goes on to say this argument is nonsense. It is essentially the same as saying dogs have fur, cats have fur, therefore cats are dogs. All right, so that's a decent analogy to combat my thinking that HTML is a programming language. Someone else says declarative yes, programming no. How will you write a loop in HTML? So look, there's no firm answer. You can have any opinion you want. Here's my advice. Don't put it on your resume. In your brain, you can think that yes, this is your first programming language you're learning and using, but we're not going to put it on a resume. If you put something like CSS on the resume, that's going to entail that you know HTML. So that's perfectly fine for an employer to see that you have some CSS skills. Alright, so I'm going to have a separate video on the reading I found. So it's all about basic HTML information. I think even if you skip the reading, you'll still be able to answer these two questions decently, alright? But I definitely recommend watch the video or do the reading first, and then come back to this DOL, and then the rest of class will spend practicing using HTML and experimenting and discovering what tags do what, okay? So for you auditory learners here, I want you to look at this word bank. Try to use these words to answer the 2 questions. Words are angle brackets, headings, paragraphs, lists, links, images, web server, markup, language, tags. First question. How is HTML used to create content on a web page? Number 2, what do you need to do to learn a programming language?